All right, folks. Welcome everybody for what an interesting kind of thing, right? It's just like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, at least where I am. I think same is true for you, Aaron. Marco, it's
Same
a
here.
bit later for you. What are you about 8
It's
p.m.?
it's 9 p.m. You're the
9
perfect
p.m. Okay.
time to go into the dark, right?
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, it's actually you're all queued up in terms of mood. But I just want to welcome everybody in the chat and folks who are coming in, and extend a special greeting to both you, Marco, and Aaron. Just really appreciate the opportunity to be able to both hang out with you guys and respect the hell out of both of you, and just to be able to hang out and
Please.
watch this movie together and hear
It's an
really
honor to
expert
be
commentaries.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course, it's a
Yeah.
really it's a lot of fun for me, and again, as like an academic, it's really great. One of the really cool things about this whole thing is that I don't have to worry about like the stuffy academy where we can't even be seen with practitioners because it might blur the line, blah blah blah. I'm like, I don't have to give a damn about that because this is YouTube and who cares.
You're out of the witch closet, right?
Yeah, or it's just
You
I
already
don't.
blur the line.
Yeah, I don't even. Yeah, this doesn't matter to me. I like expertise is expertise, and surely you guys are experts having done the damn thing, and so in that way, I'm really looking forward to looking at this a film version of it, and again, what makes for good film and what makes for good ritual and makes it good for good history. Those are all very different things, and like every film, they make compromises, and it'll be interesting to see. Both on the one hand, I'm really curious to see what you guys think they do, what they do well and what they don't do well. But I'm also really interested to see how you would have done it differently if you were depicting the same thing. So that's kind of an idea, like how might you have depicted things differently. But just we're going to start the film here in about 10 minutes. So just Marco, Aaron, you got about 5 minutes of just introduction, or may want to say anything or introduce
Aaron, you go
yourselves
first.
or whatever. Yeah, Marco.
Yeah. Go ahead, Marco. What do you think of this? What do we? I mean, I don't want to give like spoilers and stuff. So, what do you want us to say at the very beginning?
Well,
Like a general opinion, or
general opinion. Introduce yourself. Just whatever. This is super relaxed.
Okay. Well, I mean, my name's Aaron Leitch. I am an author. I write on the subject of Western esotericism, specifically the Solomonic Grimoires, and I have performed the Abramelin operation. I did that back in 1997. So I'm here today to hang out with these cool dudes and watch a movie that I famously despise. I said, I don't know how much you want me to say here at the beginning, but God, I hate this movie on so many levels. And so I know my fans and friends, actually just the people in my life, have said how awesome it would be to watch me sit here and be tortured for a couple hours watching this movie and just see what I have to say about it. So you brought it up, and it was kind of fate that we needed to hook up to do this. So I'm glad we're here.
Well, thank you for your masochism, Aaron.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see how I can counterbalance that. My name is Marco Visconti. I'm an author as well right now. My first book has just been published a few months ago, and I'm at my my focus is on Thelema. Not so much the classic Thelema. I'm trying to like push the envelope a little bit further than just Crowley worship. I get a lot of flack for that, but I will not relent. I did perform the Abramelin operation in 1999, so a little bit, a couple of years after Aaron, and I love this movie. But I think that me and Aaron actually will agree on several key points. And like without giving any spoilers. Yeah, I mean, I cannot say anything else at the moment because, of course. But one thing I can say that I know somebody who actually worked in the movie. My friend Ziana. She was she was a digital editor of the movie. And so I know a little bit of what happened, on the other side of the screen. And maybe I'll share it with you during the movie.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. So I've never done the Abramelin, so I'm totally. It's a text I know well. Again, I'm just a boring academic. I know the text well as a text. And I guess this is the place where I can drop the bomb and say, there's been a new recension discovered of the Abramelin Ritual. I've told Marco and Aaron this behind the scenes. I can't say much more than that. It is getting published pretty soon. But there has been a new recension discovered of the Abramelin Ritual. which I guess one of the things people worry about is like, oh, and Aaron, it wasn't Aaron, Marco said, hey, it's another way that people can tell me how I did it wrong. This is the thing about these manuscript traditions, and this is true of the Solomonic manuscript tradition. Is that there is no coherence to these manuscript traditions. They are highly unstable.
Yeah,
and so when people get into the business of telling
an endless
people
game
like,
of telephone.
it's really like it's and it's and again, I think that anyone who wants to die on the hill of purity in terms of manuscript transmission, I don't care if that's the Solomonic transmission or the Bible, you pick a manuscript tradition, you're going to deal with the transmission corruption, and I don't think that
That's why it's important to just pick one and stick with it.
Stick with it. I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's funny. I see someone in the chat just say, "Oh, did they do the truncated version?" See, I know it was going to happen in the first 5 minutes of us chatting about that. So, for those of you who maybe don't know, originally, I guess me and Aaron, we both did the version that was available to us at the time, which was apparently a 6 months operation. In time,
we didn't have the Den version yet.
The Den version, right, which is like from a German manuscripts, which tell us that in fact it's a 18 months operation. But as Aaron would say, like in my experience, like you get a set of instructions, you stick with it. It's the aspiration, it's the dedication that makes this thing click.
Right.
But hey,
and also I think it's interesting that the 18-month version is much more lenient in almost every respect than the 6-month version. And so like, again, it's like if you're balancing out here, like, oh, you can say, oh, they did the 6-month version. The 6-month version is much more rigorous. Like the German version, you can kind of live your life. You can, in many respects, nothing significantly changes. So it's about your day-to-day life. You can go to work.
Like I think there was like this. I don't remember if it was like a blog post or a book by Marcus Katz that he was actually speaking about how he did his own version, right? And he was doing his own version by having a family and going to work. So at the end of the day, everybody has their own experiences with this, and we're talking about gnosis. We're talking about incredibly life-changing personal experiences. For me, it's very difficult to put it into words, right? So at the end of the day,
another thing that I always like to bring up too is that even with the French version, a lot of what people think you have to do to accomplish Abramelin is just a myth surrounding the book. The book says you can work. It says if you are your own master, then you can delegate the responsibilities of your company and go retire. But if not, then ... And Abraham himself had a family and children at the time he did it. Abraham,
he writes it for
into a cave. Right? He did it in a city. So I mean, while the 6-month version is more intense because the author was trying to pack a year and a half worth of work and devotion into that 6 months. Even in that version, there's a lot of mythology still, urban legend, I'll call it, surrounding Abramelin. And we're about to see it in this movie, this whole idea of having to go rent a house out in the middle of nowhere, which is complete nonsense. I mean, so yeah, there's a lot
unless you could do it. I think the idea is if you could do it, you should do it.
If you've got the means, absolutely. I mean, if you've got the means, go live in a cave, go out into the wilderness and establish a sukkot and surround it with a hedge. I mean, all these instructions are in the book, but if you don't have those means, then, and we've talked about this, but for the audience, I'm saying, if you don't have those means, the book tells you to do what you can do within your means. Never to just take the easier path because it's easier, but do everything you can within the limits of your human means, but still do it within your means. Well, I can't go live in a cave like Abramelin did, so I can't do it. Well, Abraham didn't. Abraham did the operation, at home. He did the home version. So yeah, there's a lot. I don't want to take up all of our time with this stuff, but you'll see why this whole myth busting concerning Abramelin is such an issue with me in this movie. But again, I don't want to get into spoilers, so I'll
magic has never had the philosophy of let the perfect be the enemy of the good. The history of magic is certainly the lesson of most of it is like, do not let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
I just don't want to see people use that as they take, like, as a teacher or an author, you say, well, the manuscripts say, you don't have to wait for it to be perfect. And then I actually get people come to me and go, okay, so Abramelin, I can start that in the fall, right? I can just start that in October because that's just when it's most convenient. No, stop. Yeah, but I can't wait around forever. Well, no, but you do have to wait for Passover at least. You know what I'm saying? It's so hard to admit to the fluidity of the ritual without kind of giving people leave by your authority, because you're an author on the subject, to go and then do it the easy way and the, you know, just make it up as they go along. And well, that's what worked for me. Oh, I hate that phrase. Yeah. It was my intention.
Passover. Yeah, it's like you know, you kind of like, then everything goes right. Like everything can happen as long as it works
for me. Well, no, then you didn't do. I mean, if you want to make up a ritual that works for you, fine, but then don't go around saying that you did Abramelin. You just do Abramelin.
Yeah, it's funny coming off the heels of Passover, like how inconvenient of a holiday that is. Oh, I hate Passover. Like, yeah, I know you're supposed to be all religious or whatever, and I'm supposed to like be like, oh, it's a celebration of our Jewish people's freedom. Like, no, it's an inconvenient holiday.
Let me tell you what, I got a whole class of students right now for whom Passover is lasting 6 months this year.
Well, no, wow, I would not want any part of that. You know, the joke, right, about the fastest way to kosher your house for Passover is to burn it down.
Burn it down.
And then there would still be rabbis say it's not really kosher. You didn't burn it down enough. God, I hate Passover. It's funny.
Yeah,
me and my mother-in-law.
Growing up, my mom worked for Frito-Lay. She worked in the executive offices, but it was right there at the factory. And they would talk about the rabbi coming by because that's a kosher product. Mm-hmm. And they had to be very clean. I mean, they took the rabbi coming by seriously. I mean, saying the rabbi is on his way, you might as well have been saying the CEO of the company was on his way.
Okay.
So they took it seriously. He could shut the whole place down. Now, that said, if they met his standards, he would just stand in over the place and just say the blessing over the whole warehouse at once. And that was good enough. On he went. You know, it's you do what you got to do.
The kosher racket.
The kosher racket, yep.
The kosher racket, kosher mafia, yeah. People talk again.
Piety
or whatever. Oh my God, I would never say that, and I'm so glad you were there to say
that. As a lapsed Catholic, for me, you know, Pasqua or Passover was about eating chocolates. So it's like, I have fond memories of that.
Yeah, kosher for Passover chocolate. All right, guys.
Oh, just to let people know, you have to bring up the film on your own devices.
Yeah, we cannot stream the film. That would
another movie.
Copyright flag.
So what are we gonna do? Like, tell everyone where to sync up, or how do we do?
Yeah, I think we're gonna do like a 3, 2, 1 start, and then folks can.
On which channel are you watching? I have it on Prime Video because
I'm doing it. I rented it through YouTube, so
yeah.
Okay.
Just tell me like what logo we should start on, or where I should cue it up to.
I'm just starting at 0, 0, 0, and even if we're a few seconds apart, I think it's not gonna matter that much. No, we can't let the perfect beginning be good, guys.
Okay, let's go to I'm at 0, 0, 0, ready to start.
Okay.
All right.
Aaron, you too?
I am now at 0, 0. Okay.
All right. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Go.
Okay.
All right. I would say that this is one of the things about this movie that made me more hungry for than anything else is a John Dee movie. Like, just how much we need a good John Dee movie.
I would love that.
That would be amazing. By the way,
I was wanted to write a novelization of the whole angelic sessions era. Just make a whole like a almost sci-fi history kind of story out of it.
It starts with Psalm 91, which is an interesting psalm, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's something that I always love, that there is a little bit of that. I mean, it just sets the mood.
Right.
It's a beautiful shot too.
And it's shot in Ireland, in County Wicklow, all of it.
Nice.
It's a beautiful, beautiful country.
Yeah, it's really
and I should add the disclaimer here. None of my issues with this movie are about it. Cinematography, acting, writing. It's a beautiful movie in that sense.
And folks should know that Psalm 91 is historically has been an exorcism psalm. It's been used as an exorcism song. Basically, it's all the way back until even in the Dead Sea Scrolls. it was used as an exorcism psalm.
And it's given in the Abramelin system, in the French version, as a secret psalm you're supposed to use when you first conjure the spirits.
Okay. So I love the fact that she asks, does he go west, right? I mean,
she's looking for an eastern-facing room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Why is she looking for a western-facing window, right?
Nope, she had to turn that one down.
And then she rents it for a year, so more than 6 months. There you go.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you watch the dates in this, they're there for way longer than 6 months. I think they're there for over a year or close to a year.
When they shot it, you mean? I can tell you, yeah, they shot it over.
I mean, in the timeline of the story, yeah, I think because he makes several mentions, yeah, that I think they stay there for way more than 6 months. Right?
Spoilers. You see,
yeah. Spoilers are just going to happen, folks. If you that's just going to happen.
Okay, this is.
I think one of the things I like about this film also is it sort of plays with the image of the traditional image of the occultist, right? Is that he's wearing a bucket hat? Like he looks nothing like.
Yeah, it plays with all right. I'll have things to say about that as we progress.
I'll tell you something, folks. Though this really looks like the UK scene. It's like a lot of magicians around here that looks exactly like this. There's a lot of it here in the UK. The occult scene is actually very working class, and so that's what I think they wanted to play into the way he is portrayed.
Now, from my standpoint, this guy, and then you'll see it as this unfolds. This guy is to occultism what Napoleon Dynamite is to occultism.
Good point.
I mean, I swear to God, if I ever run into occultists like this, I just turn around and walk the other way.
You're lucky. I've run into men like this, to be fair.
I'm sorry, guys. I had to say that.
Right, he does have a very working class accent, Marco.
Yeah.
I like to comment. He looks like you guys. Like collectively, he looks like us.
Well, fantastic. Thank you. I need to get.
I think he just needs me and Mark. I honestly do.
It's like the three of us together.
Take the three of us and ask an AI art generator to combine us, and there you are.
When she speaks here about keeping abstaining from sex, keeping a diet, that's a good idea of what it means to get into a purification state, right?
It is. The only technical issue is you don't have to do that stuff before the operation starts.
That is also very true.
You can. There are some, like I have some students that like to kind of start the fasting and the vegetarian diet and start trailing off. You don't even have to stop having sex for the first couple months of the rite, as long as it's with someone that is close to and you love. You can't go to clubs and party, but the no sex, absolutely no sex, comes in the final phase, which would be 6 months in the original and 2 months in this one. But still, it's getting the idea across. Yes, for the rite, you will have to give up these things and change your diet, change your habits. That's where a lot of the stress it comes from, is you've turned off everything that you're used to, that your body is kind of craving.
That's also like he here mentions that he did it 3 times, 2 times didn't work, 1 time it did work. What the fuck does mean? Sorry.
This is one of the first things that irritates me in this movie about the Abramelin operation. You don't do Abramelin because you have this thing you want, and I'm going to do this ritual to get it, and then maybe I'll do the ritual later when I want the next thing. That is not what this is. No. This is an initiation into a spiritual tradition, a way of life. You do it once and once only, And at that point, your guardian angel is bound to your skull, and you don't have to do those months of purification again.
Yeah.
It's not a one-off.
Do they call the Abramelin in the movie?
Oh yes.
Yeah. I do right now. He says like, "Oh, the Abramelin, you're not fucking around.
You're not fucking around," he said.
And it's interesting because, again, spoilers. Later, he also says that it's a very dark ritual, and I was like, "What?"
And they do that later when she's talking. Spoilers, but she's going to talk to her sister, and it's the same thing. Well, this is black. Shouldn't you be doing something of God? It's like, have you read the book of Abramelin?
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get there.
But at the same time, like if I want to say something, I want to say this because I would say where I stand. Like, I like the way this movie conveys magic, right? Even if it has nothing to do with Abramelin, really. It has to do with the idea of a very long, involved ritual, maybe of sorts, right? That's it. But it's I mean, for those of you actually maybe watching this is not the Abramelin. Right? It's
at
almost
all
nothing about it.
Nothing about this. Yeah. I mean, yeah, they get a house so they can be secluded. You don't have to get you can't leave the house. I don't know where they got that from. Even the book says you can take a walk around outside.
Well, like they do go around, right? But they put spoilers. Let's wait for the moment.
But once they close the door, he won't let her open it again.
Yeah,
that's another issue that I'm going to bring up. God, I'm dumping spoilers all over the place.
It would be interesting to see if somebody can devise what kind of ritual they're trying to do, right? Because there's some sort of thinking behind, whatever they're going to do, right?
Isn't this the same guy who made Hereditary?
No, that's Ari Aster.
No. Oh, okay. That guy made Midsummer, didn't he?
Midsummer as well, yeah.
Okay. So this is different then. But it seemed like with Hereditary and this, there was a trend of taking things from real grimoires and using them in movies without.
Yeah, I think this is what makes for
in a weird way. Hereditary actually was more. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it has to so much to do with what makes a good film, right? What looks good on camera versus sort of, I think that there's different demands in terms of a ritual demand that will actually transform you versus what will look good on camera.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is that, but I think that I mean, if you're gonna make a movie and call it Abramelin, you could actually show a lot more of what Abramelin really is.
Especially because I can say this without spoilers. It kind of fits at the end, right? But it's just everything that happens it makes for a great movie. There's no denying that.
See, you did it. I was gonna say I don't want to give spoilers, but now you did, and I'm gonna say from the time the demons show up and start really hammering on her till the end of the movie, I think it's actually very good. I think it actually does a good job of depicting what goes on inside you when you're going through this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
I just wish the rest of the movie had been like that, and it just wasn't. Oh, by the way, this scene proves he's read my work. Listen.
Psychobabble bollocks.
God, there's no ritual sex. Here it is. See? Tell me they haven't read my essays.
That's true.
He pointed out that the HGA is not your higher self, and then he says this is a Gnostic ritual. Where are they getting that from? I should have had a credit in this.
Yeah, I mean, especially because this was shot in 2015. Your stuff was one of the few stuff online. I mean, that was like speaking about the Abramelin per se. I love the fact that they say, "Oh, I've read the Kabbalah."
I'm not mad at them. I just wish they'd use
as if the Kabbalah is a thing that one. Yeah.
It's true. Like, there's a lot of name dropping, right? Because as you said, Justin, it's to make a good movie. It's to make things interesting for.
But there's just some over the top stuff in here that I just don't get.
Once we start, there's no living.
Right.
Ah, he's an alcoholic too. Yeah. This guy is a living, walking red flag. Seriously, people, if you meet an occultist who's like this, just go the other way.
Yeah, especially if you drinking enough to be DTing after just a couple of hours. That's a serious abuse problem.
And his entire attitude. I know we've been talking over it, so that's it's hard to use it as an example. But his whole attitude through this whole thing has just been so narcissistic and angry and antisocial.
So what you're saying, Aaron, there aren't narcissistic, antisocial people in the occult world?
No, well, actually, my issue. No, seriously, my issue is yes, there are. And I don't want movies like this making people think that this is normalized, that this is what you should accept, because there are occult leaders that act like this, and oh my God, it never goes well.
Or maybe this is kind of grist for the mill of that, right? It's actually like, hey, look, like there are a lot of people like this. If you think this guy's a red flag, make sure to do that in real life.
That's why I'm here today, because ever since we started advertising this, I've been getting nothing but comments about, oh, I love this film. They must have had an occult specialist on set. This is so much what it's really like. And I just want to tell people, listen, if this is what you think occultism is really like, get away, because it's not. This is not normal.
I'll tell you though, like, unfortunately, that has been the experience of a lot of the word I've seen. It's maybe especially here in the UK, right? There's another thing that I guess this movie really encapsulates very well. Again, maybe it's a UK thing only. There's a lot of tension in the UK scene between working class and upper middle class, maybe even like rich people in general. And this is very well portrayed here. Of course, she is rich, she has money, and she wants to double. And but the real magician who has the knowledge is, in fact, is working class bloke that actually kind of hates her for being upper middle class. I really love this in the movie, right? So for me, as somebody who's been involved in the scene here in the UK for the last 10 years, that spoke to me. It was like, I've seen these dynamics play a lot, actually.
I have too, unfortunately.
Yeah,
a lot more than I'd like to say, but
also,
I mean, even to the point of holding her here, he's charging her, what was it, $30,000? That's a big red flag. He's holding it now. Of course, she could leave anytime she wants, but he's manipulating her and making her think. He even tells her, if you go out that door, we'll be trapped in here forever.
It's really bad
nonsense.
Yeah,
this guy.
But that's the thing, though. I think that he may be a frightening person, but it doesn't change the fact that he might actually know what he's talking about. I think that's what's kind of worrisome, is that it could be both and.
But if we're basing this on what the Abramelin operation really is, then really he doesn't know the first fucking thing he's talking about. And in reality, when you meet a guy like this, they generally don't actually know what they're talking about, And I hear people say that, look, if this person has knowledge you need, it doesn't matter if they're a jerk. Well, the thing is, they wouldn't be treating people like that if they had that knowledge.
Right.
So why waste your time? Do you want to go through all this spiritual work to end up like that guy? So,
Yeah, I see somebody in the chat say that he comes off as having a Crowley personality, and that's something I thought as well, right? Maybe they were
I'm sure they're trying to make him like a Crowley,
like like a nasty individual, right?
You also notice his name,
especially the women.
Yeah, his name is, and they named her Sophia.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely some intentionality with the names. This is a pet theory I have for this movie, and I haven't heard anyone else say it. But folks may know that her child was killed by occultists in the film.
Yeah.
And my pet theory of this is that guy, that Solomon, was involved, and she knows it.
This whole thing
is a trap. Like we think that he's the dangerous guy manipulating her, but the reality is she's playing the long game.
Playing the long game, yeah.
And that's one of the.
You told me about that before, and I watched the movie again, kind of with that in mind, and I don't know. It's hard to say, because they even bring it up in dialogue, and she dismisses it.
Yeah, and again, spoilers, right? But, then it would make sense, because certain things happen to him and not to her. Right on. Like if she is, if she's like doing all of this in order to rope him in to the ritual, right? Mm-hmm. But anyway, so
here's the conversation where they're describing these dark black things she's doing, called Abramelin.
They could have called anything really, like something like I don't
I
know,
wish they had.
a goetic evocation or something.
Right.
Like that.
It would have been a better movie.
Also, I mean, everyone should have a friend like this friend. Like, this is actually really good advice. Like, you're not going to fix your deep-seated trauma with a one-off anything.
And yeah, absolutely. I would argue you should not do magic without having gone to therapy, but they like that's another
The Guardian method.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, whenever like if you want to join the Abramelin class I give, you can't just buy it off the website. You have to fill out a questionnaire first. And that's one of the questions is, is there something in your life that you think this is going to fix?
Yeah. This is something that they had to tell to people that sign up to my courses as well. Magic is not a substitute for anything that it's something that enhance your life. It will enhance your life, but
it's not going to fix.
There's no one waving and things go away, right? Unfortunately,
right.
And
I tell my students, your guardian angel isn't there to steer you around the potholes and pitfalls in your life. She's there to shove you into them and then stand up at the rim of the hole, encouraging you. Come on, climb up. You can do it. Come on. That's what your guardian angel does.
Absolutely.
You just trust she'll never shove you into one that'll kill you when you hit the bottom. And then you know that, okay, this is something I got to get over. This is something I can do.
I love the fact that the sister is called Victoria, right? And she's called Sophia. So there's a lot of interesting, underpinnings there as well. Sophia, of course,
All this stuff they're showing, nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I think it's just good for filmmaking. Like, so strange.
Which is why I think this would have been better if it had just not been called Abramelin. It would still strike me as a bunch of like chaos magic style nonsense, but at least it wouldn't be.
This is like the shot of the Milky Way. You do get a sense of how remote they are. They're not. You got to be pretty far out in the middle of nowhere to see the Milky Way that clearly.
Ideally, this is they are in Wales, of course, and this was shot in fact in Ireland. But I'll tell you, like if you go to there's plenty of places in Wales or Ireland. They're like, that's it. Like you go there and there's nothing around. When I did the Abramelin, actually I did it in Pineta Castelfusano, which is an area of Rome near the sea, and it was like this little cottage inside it, and it was quite. I mean, it was nice, right? Like it was kind of remote for everything.
I did mine on a ground floor apartment. You can up sheets around the double sliding glass doors that led out to our patio, and that was my oratory, and then the patio was the terrace, and that's just where I lived for 6 months in that apartment.
And the thing is that it can definitely work like that. I mean, it's written. They say it. I mean, they say it in the book, right? It's you can do it in cities.
Once had a guy walk right up to the fence around my patio and just, oh, hey, you look like a religious dude. Yeah, that's really cool. I just started jabber. It's good to see someone of such faith. And so, oh my God, it's like, can I get back to my prayers now? Thank you.
Exactly. Somebody's asking if Sophia Scroll is Babylon. How do we go there? Well, kinda, maybe.
Yeah, it's sort of.
It's complicated.
Not consensually.
There's two Sophias, and Babylon is kind of the lower Sophia.
Yeah, Sophia Alkamot, right? That's
connected to. What was I going to say? She's connected to. I kind of lost it there, but. You know how the higher and lower Shekinah, or in Gnosticism, you have Sophia and Zoe. Mm-hmm. But then with the Shekinah, that got corrupted when the temple was destroyed. So now Lilith is the wife of God, and that's basically Babylon. That's Lilith.
That's a good reading. I like that, actually.
It's all Gershom Scholem Hebrew goddess stuff. So I'm not pretending any great deep knowledge. I'll defer to Justin on all that stuff, but. I'm just going with Raphael Patai.
Yeah, it's Patai, but the sources in the Zohar. The idea that Lilith is now the consort of God.
Somebody's asking if Crowley ever attempted the ritual again after abandoning it. Yes, you can read all of it in John St. John in the Equinox. And I actually
finished it in China, right?
Yeah, in
the
China.
waste of China.
Yeah,
he was
see,
so into it that his donkey fell into a pit.
And this is where we're going to get into conflict because Crowley did not complete Abramelin. He didn't even perform Abramelin.
I agree with you. I agree with
Abramelin, and he gave up on it before he finished it, and then he finished the rest of it on the back of a horse or a donkey or something.
Donkey in China.
No, he did not perform Abramelin. It's just
no. I definitely
clear that air right now.
I am with you, Aaron. He did not do Abramelin. He did something else. That's actually how he got the idea of Liber Samekh, right? The idea that then you can do everything in your mind and create your mental palace. And
Liber Samekh is a great little manual just for like a standard devotional practice, and you can see where he drew from Abramelin because that's a very standard devotional practice. But it's not Abramelin. It's just two different things. They're not the same.
Or one derivative
you mentioned.
Of the other.
Sorry, Justin.
Or that one is derivative of the other. That it's taking aspects of Abramelin and incorporating them with.
It is, but on a more
from the PGM, and it's a
more
highly syncretized ritual, which I would say is par for the course in the history of magic. Syncretism is the rule,
especially post Golden Dawn. Absolutely.
Yeah,
but I would say on a technical level, the difference is like something like Liber Samekh that gets you in contact with the entity that you're directing your devotions toward. You can get conversation that way, but knowledge and conversation, that you can only get that by doing the full Abramelin.
I think you mentioned the fact that you see the contact first, and then what we call knowledge and conversation as the crowning in Regla de Ocha, right? In the Leucomia.
Absolutely.
I mean, I agree with you in the sense that when I did it, I had the first contact. It took me several years, many years, in fact, to actually go deeper and deeper and deeper till I had, installation in the head, maybe in Wudon, to become something similar to Wudon. I mean, that's how I experienced it, at least. It's not something you just click it down. I mean, even after the 6 months,
it takes time to develop. Yeah, that's why Oshani Lele, my teacher, told me that, and he was describing Ocha. He wasn't trying to tell me what my guardian angel would do, but he said in Ocha, the Orisha will sleep for like a year, so it's a slow burn. It's a gestation. Yeah, see this right here? This is the kind of toxic behavior. If you're a student of the occult, this is an example of what not to be.
Yeah, I agree.
What not to look for, what to run away from.
If you find anybody that puts you to this stuff, you just fold and go somewhere else, right? I agree with you.
And we kind of missed it. I think it's in this scene, or it might have been earlier. You said, "Oh, well, I'll take the room with the bed. You'll sleep on the floor, and you'll do No, that is not how it works. This isn't. You're not on the top of a Tibetan temple where you're enslaving yourself to the guru for enlightenment. No. You shouldn't even have anyone there with you to do Abramelin, but that's beside
precisely exactly. That's we got. Abramelin is a solo operation, and the point of being solo is key to it. Actually,
being alone. Yeah,
alone
you don't have to go live out in the woods or in the wilderness, but you can't. Yeah, you can't have someone there. My wife was with me, but even toward the end, she went and stayed with Oshani actually, so that I could do the final ritual alone. But
somebody is asking if Boleskine House burned down because of Abramelin. No.
Burned down because of arsonists.
Burned down because of some idiots who, probably
burned down twice,
or either fundamentalists or Thelemites who were there partying. That's what happened.
Maybe
that could happen. Well, the thing is, the fact that it happened twice in a row tells me it was the former.
You don't want me to tell you. Let's not start this discussion here.
Yeah, that's
Justin is going to get demonetized very soon.
And this movie is plenty bad enough.
Exactly.
Again, not technically. It's a beautiful movie. Kudos to the actors, director. My bone to pick is with the writer, who I think was the director, right?
Liam Gavin. He was also the
wrote
writer.
and directed it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that.
Which is also interesting because if you see
circles in Abramelin,
all the comments say, all the interviews say that he didn't know anything about magic, like he was not a practitioner. But then, my friend Ziana actually apparently on the set, he was saying, actually, I am interested into this. Right? So, that's kind of like different portrayals of the thing. Was he or was he not?
I've known people to go native before.
Wasn't
my
Beatles cover out?
My wife Carrie, she was online. This is back in like the late 90s, and saw a website put up by a police officer whose job was to investigate occult crimes, and he had descriptions of Santeria and Palomayombe on there, and Lukumi and Palomayombe, and they were so filled with misinformation and stuff. She had to contact them, and
Really?
they struck up a conversation. Yeah. She's actually now, she went to conferences and stuff to speak to law enforcement officers about occultism. I didn't go with her, but she even took some of my tools to show them what the Solomonic stuff looked like.
Looks like, yeah.
And he is now, that police officer, he's been crowned. he went full native.
Okay, I want to comment something here. Like, for those of you watching the movie, this is nothing like Abramelin. You don't have different chambers. Well, I mean, technically you have the oratory, but you don't have 5
the oratory
chambers
in your room.
in your room.
I think they're also incorporating a bunch of Solomonic stuff. That's that's obviously like the triangle of art and stuff like that. I think they're just. I think it's largely they're taking
just for
lots
visuals.
of different elements and just sort of mashing them together to make for good storytelling.
Yeah, they are.
It looks,
as you said, right? Like you don't need
right?
another person there to do Abramelin, but can you imagine a movie with just one person? I mean,
yeah, of course.
It's
I can totally understand that, but if you look at it from my point of view, since I'd say early 2000s, I've been working very hard to myth bust the subject of Abramelin and do away with a lot of the things people thought about it for for 100 years at least. And I felt like I was just making headway, and then this movie comes out and just refloods the market with nonsense because people watch this and come away thinking they've watched the Abramelin operation.
Well, I mean, at the same time,
I hate to say it, but
this movie gives the opportunity to be here and myth bust again. So that's
yes. So for everyone who watches this, they'll at least know this is not the. Oh, look, she's shaving the guy. Oh God, my forehead is like more of an Islamic by the end of this.
It's like that's like the shaving the body is more of like a Sufi thing.
Yeah, they're probably drawn from that, and I've seen some Eastern stuff. He even mentions metal as one of the elements here. Oh, by the way, there are no 4 elements in the Abramelin.
No, exactly. I don't get. I mean, maybe
the 4 kings of the directions are there, but
yeah, which is also super. I mean, for me, it was like that's which kind of grimoire was actually taken as inspiration there, because of course like Satan, Beelzebub, right? It's like, where does that come from? Do you know actually where it could be the source of that? Part?
From what I can tell, it's nothing more than just Christian influence.
Christian influence, yeah.
It's just because the book was clearly written with a Gnostic basis,
mm-hmm.
and they were taking a lot from. I mean, I can't really call it Jewish Gnosticism because that's what they call Merkava, but you can see in Merkava another example where a lot would be adopted in. And I just think that's all this was. Okay. Because I can trace where the demonology in the Book of Abramelin came from. It goes back to the Hygromantia and stuff, but it goes back to Solomonic grimoires, even in the German originals. So it's just straight up Solomonic Christian style influence on the tradition.
Yeah, I think it's coming from the Officium Spiritum. I think that's like
that's in there. Yeah, I've got a graphic I can show you later, of course, but it actually traces the entire hierarchy and the different grimoires, and that the book of the Office of Spirits is one. I'm stuttering, but that is one of them. The Hygromantia is one of them, and there's another one I'm spacing. It might be I'm spacing it, but I got the graphic. I can show you guys.
Testament of Solomon, and then to the Hygromantia, then the Officium Spiritum, and then Officium Spiritum is Pseudomonarchia, and then that goes.
Basically, you can tell that the author was taking the basic Hygromantia hierarchy, but that's not 12-fold, so he had to fill in spaces. Where he drew from the other grimoires to fill those spaces in. And he just added Magot.
And those demonologies are absolutely inconsistent. They're all over the place from manuscript to manuscript.
They are, but have you read Jake Stratton Kent's Pandemonium?
Pandemonium,
not Geosophia, Pandemonium. He cracked that. He found it is very unstable from manuscript to manuscript, but it is not as freeform as we thought it was.
No,
And
no,
he
it's definitely not
found the
freeform. There's
pattern.
certainly consistency.
Oh man, he revolutionized my whole view of the underworld with with that one book.
But
let
like
alone
spelling and stuff,
Geosophia.
it's a mess.
I mean, it's
Oh
again,
god,
it's a good,
yes.
It's a good moment to also spend a little bit of time to remember Jake Stratton-Kent that just passed a few months ago. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
he did so much great work.
He did wonderful, game-changing work. I tell you what.
Oh, this is when the door starts to open. Yeah.
Now, see, I want to call this BS, but unfortunately, I did have a similar experience at the start of my right. There were actually two. One you would call insignificant. We were at the river gathering the sand that I would need to put on the terrace. Me and my wife were, then girlfriend. And carrying the buckets back to the car, there was this grasshopper on the bucket. Beautiful green grasshopper. So I carefully picked it up and took it back down to the water and set it down next to the river. And this heron, I guess it was, just hopped on over like I had just left that there for him and gobbled it up. And I was like, well, there's an interesting synchronicity. I don't know what to make of that.
You know what? It's interesting you mentioned that because something that happened to me, it's in Rome is super polluted, right? Even I was a little bit outside Rome. You don't get to see anything like that. What happened to me is that I would see like a lot of fireflies, right? You know, the things that the little things that make lights. And it just I was like, that does not happen. Like, you do not get fireflies in Rome, right? And I mean, to this day, I was like, did I just see it?
I bet you like that scene later in the movie.
Yeah, exactly, right? When I saw that, I was like,
yeah, spoilers. Now, see, I mentioned too, my second one actually did involve a black bird, oddly enough. So that scene is a little cringy for me. But right at the beginning of my operation, we rescued a little baby black bird. We named him Draven. And he was so bonded to us. We'd let him run around free. And if I was reading a book, he'd jump on the book and look up at me. And he was so cute.
Wow. Okay.
And one night we were asleep and he got his leg caught in his cage and he died.
Oh.
And that really devastated us. So that was like this real hit to the heart right at the beginning of my operation.
How long do you think they've been at this, guys? If you get a sense, weeks?
Oh, I would say at this point, weeks.
This should be like, I think maybe even like the first month in, because she's already going through some serious ordeals, right? Like the fact she needs to stay awake, not to sleep. Which, by the way, that's not a thing either.
That's not a thing.
But the idea is that
if this scene, oh my god, this scene we're watching right here. I mean, you guys ever watch King of the Hill?
Yeah. No. I haven't.
Do you remember the episode? You don't. Do you remember the episode where Bobby fell in with those wannabe neo-pagans and they tried to get him to drink dog blood? That's all I can think of when I watch this scene. This is so stupid.
Yeah, and also
students, do not drink blood as part of your ceremonies.
And also, insofar as Abramelin has its origins in a Jewish ritual, of all the things that would absolutely be completely forbidden under any circumstances, would be drinking blood of any kind.
The book says, do not consume anything that had blood in it. Yeah. Nothing.
You can have kosher law. That's just kosher law. That's just like keeping kosher
law. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about the milk and eggs, if I'm right on that. But yeah, you can't, anything that had to be killed to get what you're eating, you're not allowed to eat during Abramelin. It's the straight up rule. And drinking some dickhead's blood is not part of the ritual. Jesus. I hate this scene. And I get people go, oh, they must have had an occult consultant on set. Really?
They probably had someone, but I'm sure they also had someone.
As far as I know, no, they didn't have. Like I said, my friend.
No way they could have.
Well, it was like was more like, you know, the director and writer was the one who actually had interest in that, right? So.
Yeah. Also, can you really have like an occult film without some kind of like blood drinking? I mean, I feel like it's like a Hammer House classic. You have to have things like that. I don't know. It's grueling and disgusting and to watch, but again, good. It makes for good film.
It definitely does. I mean, also like the one they show the pages, right? When what is that? Is that a grimoire? It's not a grimoire, of course, right? But it makes for a good prop on the set,
Yeah.
right?
My
Yeah.
sense is it must have been it must have been a
Mhm.
demonology. That's my guess. Like it must have been some kind of taxonomy of demons. Maybe the demons they'll encounter later. Maybe interesting to compare the two and see if to what degree they're similar. But I think it's meant to be basically sort of a demonology.
That's what I
Which-
assumed.
Yeah,
I didn't recognize it right off, but
Which
I just
again,
naturally
like,
assumed they did what they do on Supernatural, which is they don't use
Just
real text; they just mock them up to
mock
kinda
up
look
things. Yeah,
cool.
possibly.
Yeah.
And of course, now there's the moment where we start to understand what happened to the child. Well, at least-
Yeah. And he makes this weird comment there that kind of supports Justin's theory.
like she's seething. I think this is a grist for my mill.
Well, when he finds out, and you'll hear this in a second, he goes, "You stupid idiot! You're not here for you. You're here for me."
Yeah,
Which almost sounds like an admission, but then it's never revisited in the movie, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, unless we take what happens to him as part of that the whole thing unfolding, right? But again, it's not very clear. And also, I think that what I liked about the movie is that the fact that she says that she already said it earlier on, like, I don't do forgiveness, right?
Mhm.
She wants revenge. And then, of
Right.
course, at the end, when she finds her true will, that she sees the world in a different way, right?
Right.
Right.
Well, and which is convenient considering that if my theory is right.
Exactly. It is very good. If your theory is right, it's very convenient.
Yeah.
She got forgiveness after she got what she wanted.
Yeah. It's the best kind of forgiveness. You get your vengeance first.
That's true. If you in that light, your theory makes this a much darker movie. Well, the guy I wanted to murder is murdered, so hey, give me the power of forgiveness.
Yep.
And also, what it's funny that he says here that he wants to disappear, right? Well,
Invisibility. Well, he
Be
did.
careful what you wish for.
I guess somebody was asking in chat if it's possible to make an occult movie that it's not laughed by occultists. Well, good point. Right? I don't know if it's possible, to be fair.
Well, you're not going to make anything that's not going to be laughed at by some occultists.
Yeah,
Right.
We can laugh about everything, especially
you know that meme with the guy and the girl are walking, but the guy is looking back, checking out a second girl that's walking.
Right.
I've seen one of those where all three of their faces were replaced. Occultists, other occultists, other occultists.
yeah.
That sums it up perfectly.
I love the fact. I mean, this is interesting, right? When she start hearing things and seeing things and convincing her, okay, maybe something is really happening here. And this was my experience. Like, there was a series of things that started to happen more and more frequent as I was going through the process of purification. Because as Aaron said, like the ritual is the last few days, right? Like week or something like that at the end. Where beforehand it's just a long preparation, right?
And I warn people right about the 4-month mark, or right after you complete your the first 4 months, first 2 phases, is when it starts getting bad. And you could get some poltergeist activity and stuff, but that's really just because this is a movie. But the spirits will pull out all the stops to do everything in their power to get you to stop.
Yeah, 100%.
And they will use. The book says they know you. They know every chink in your armor. They know every button they can push, and they're going to be slamming on every button the whole way through because they're looking at losing control over you, and that's the last thing they want.
And I think also in the case of the film, if we take it on its own merits, I mean, if you're experiencing all the things she's experiencing, sleep deprivation, extreme temperature changes, being forced to be cold,
it's all very shamanic.
you're going to go insane.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
Mhm,
He's
mhm.
torturing her.
I mean, we all remember the days of the lockdowns and how
Mm-hmm.
how sanity is a tenuous thing. That locked in a
Tenuous
house
thing.
with this dude.
Yeah,
Or,
for
oh,
for,
dear
for a
Lord,
year.
that-
pretty much,
I would have
because-
murdered him a long time before this point in the movie. I'll tell you what.
So there's no doubt she would be,
Spoilers again.
spirits aside, she would already begin the process of losing her mind.
And one other
Wait.
thing that's here is like there's this scene right now. Like, well, when it just passed by, they seem to start bonding, but then they drift apart again, right? Because the guy is so fucking insufferable, right? And
Right.
he literally tortures her, like you were saying.
Right. But I think these are like some Reiki stuff here. I think these are like Reiki signs. If I remember
Maybe, or maybe
correctly.
it just looked good on camera.
That's definitely like
That reminds
I
me of
think
the
those
scene
are,
with the Joker with all the knives spread around him. It's kind of the same shot.
Or the one that does in the back. I thought the same thing when I first saw. So they look like Reiki signs.
yeah. That
Oh,
would
you
be
mean
my
the signs
guess.
he's painting on her? Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. I think
Yeah.
those are
One
Reiki
is definitely one is definitely the.
oh, right.
It's like the Seiki.
Right.
Yeah, it's Reiki. The one in the middle, it's Reiki. Like it's the. It's definitely Reiki.
So he's probably marking chakras and stuff. Yeah.
Right. And again, I think it's the thing. Part of what's interesting about this film is it shows what I think is often true about magic is how heavily syncretized it is.
Yeah.
That you're going to get lots of things. Think of the history of magic, not the Abramelin. But you think of the history of magic. Most of it was pretty.
Well,
highly
Solomonic
syncretized.
magic's very syncretic.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah,
super
those guys,
syncretic.
they weren't worried about where the magic came from. They were talking to the witches out in the forest and the Greek mathematicians and the Arabic Sufis, and they didn't care. They just wanted magic, man.
They want the results. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
Right.
Results. Yeah. No, I say that when I do a lot of different things: Golden Dawn, Solomonic, Enochian, Abramelin. But I tend to keep them kind of pure among themselves. I don't try to mix and mash them all together, So you wouldn't see me doing Abramelin like this. I did Abramelin. I did what the book says to do.
Mm-hmm. For me, was like I said, I started with the book. By the way, this is the book I used at the time, an Italian translation. I don't think it's around anymore. It's the
Nice.
Holy Magic, right? And this is a weird mixture of the Matters translation and the Umberland translation, Umberland version. So. Which was not completely like what you find in Matters.
Well, this is not the one I used. That one's on the shelf back there, falling apart. But this is the best version. I actually teach my students both versions are important, but this is the German original.
I agree. That's your go-to. I mean, up until the new one that Justin said about is coming out.
Right. That one will be our new go-to. Oh, by the way, bad touch, red flag. This is not what a spiritual leader should be doing.
No,
this man needs to be arrested. For God's sake, don't ever let anyone talk you into doing this for magical knowledge, because they are full of shit.
Yeah.
They are a predator and a monster, and they don't deserve to even be sitting in that chair.
And I will say something on this as well. Like if you read Crowley, he will say a lot that you can do sex magic with the other partner not knowing, so that he would do it with prostitutes and whatnot. That's bullshit, right? In my experience, you cannot do any sort of real sex magic ritual unless the other person is aware, is participating, is, I would say, at your same level of understanding of the ritual. So,
absolutely,
fuck it.
You would say that it wasn't sex magic. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And by the way, and we'll both say this, there is no sex magic in Abramelin.
Yeah, absolutely. Then again, there's most of what you've seen so far. It's not none of this.
Yeah, there's been no Abramelin here. They sequestered themselves. That's about as close as
that's about it. Yeah, and I think that the end. There's something about. I'll say it later. But
yeah. The end. I like the end.
If you want to think like this is not Abramelin, none of this is right. There's no chambers.
When the movie dials up to 11, that's when it becomes very Abramelin, but in a very Hollywood way. I mean, they're depicting an inner spiritual reality in an outward horror movie style. And that goes to answering what you said earlier, Justin, about could you make a movie that occultists would take? Well, you didn't ask that. You read the question. Could you make a movie that occultists would take seriously? And to me, that's how you would do it. You can use the fantastical elements and stuff, but it needs to be a depiction of what's going on inside.
I love now she just put her pee into the broth is feeding her.
Oh,
just like
God.
which is, again, this is not happening. This is not Abramelin. And I would say, from this point onward, there's just a lot of nastiness going on because they want to.
Is this where she pees on the floor too?
Yeah.
See, talk about damage a movie like this misinformation like this can do. I actually found a blog where some guy was purporting to be teaching the Abramelin process, saying that he had done it himself, and actually took time out in his essay to mention that you will probably pee on the floor in your oratory because you have to be that dedicated to sit there and never move. I actually went out of my way to link to that blog and say, ladies and gentlemen, for the love of God, please do not pee in your oratory. You spent months making it pure and sacred. Don't do that.
Don't. Also, this idea, like when he says, like, don't cross the line or we'll be fucked. The idea of, like, you have to sequester yourself, but nothing happens if you go out. In the sense that, you just have to restart the process pretty much, right? It's not about, like, just going into the triangle of Adiarte and, getting, the demons coming on you, which they do. Yeah. They do it later on, by the way, which is another interesting bit.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what they're trying. I think that's what they're depicting, is that they're again, it's mixing the Solomonic stuff with the Abramelin stuff. Is basically they've turned the entire house into a giant circle of art.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's.
I get the sense there's a lot of Thelema underlying this. Even down, I made the joke about Crowley wants his Abbey back. I think they're really trying to give a Crowley-ish kind of.
Well, but I would say, at the same time, I would tell you, like, I mean, the idea that the people have of Crowley, because there's nothing in Thelema that's like this, right? Crowley was doing strange stuff at Cefalù at the Abbey, but I mean, even then, that was more Crowley than Thelema itself, right? So,
pretty much, yeah.
I mean, again, he was building the ship at sea. Crowley, for like him or hate him or whatever, but he was an experimentalist to the very end, and he was willing. He was directed. He was a results directed person, and he was willing to experiment. And again, I think that a film like this, part of what I think isn't so well done is that they make it out as if he's the maestro and is directing the show, when it becomes increasingly clear that he's making up as he goes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at some level he's just as surprised as she is when it starts to work.
When it starts to work,
he's like, "Oh crap!"
He said he did it twice and it didn't work. So. But I will say the one place that I'm willing to give Crowley any credit, and it's not really magic, but it's the role he played in the later counterculture and consciousness expansion movement. Mm-hmm. He was the forerunner to Tim Leary and Terence McKenna and all those guys, and that stuff is worth studying. And that's where chaos magic comes from, really, is from that angle of things. So I don't really hate chaos magic as much as most people think I do. But I just poke fun at it from time to time.
I think they must be something like 9 months in, well, maybe not 7 months in, 6 months in now, because they had restarted it twice, right? Because they had the fallout, then they restarted, and then they restarted. This is a beautiful scene. So, like when
they haven't had the bathtub scene yet, have they? They don't do that till right at the end.
This is when the gold. I don't know if we're in
the fireflies.
That was it for me. Like,
man, I would have killed for a manifestation like that during my rite.
But one wonders whether she's seeing it or he's seeing it. I mean, he's looking up, but it's not clear that he's seeing what she's seeing.
And that's how you should do movies like this. Always make it. Is this really happening, or is this inside their head?
Yeah.
That's what makes a good occult movie.
I think this is a very beautiful scene.
A little bit tainted by the fact that he literally sexually assaulted her just a couple of scenes ago. All right. Very touching indeed. In fact, you can see by the end of this movie, the Stockholm Syndrome has completely set in with her.
Yeah, you're right. Especially
now she's starting to get the spirits whispering at her. So if you take all of this allegorically, this kind of stuff is fairly close.
Yeah.
Your personal demons will find a way to manifest back in your life. You'll get a phone call, you'll get a letter, you'll get something. Something will happen. And boom, you're right back in a place you thought you were done with.
Weird,
and your demons are just clawing at you to drag you down.
I also like how some of those Devanagari symbols, the Sanskrit symbols, are upside down. The amount of upside down and backwards Hebrew that I see in occult text blows my mind.
I hear the same thing with the Eastern text. People get like either the wrong thing tattooed on them, or it's backwards or upside down, or
you get bus stop tattooed
just
on
whatever whatever the tattoo guy just decided to sell you as a joke.
It is another abuse going on when she's like it's so. I think the moment where like she gets mad because it's not working, right? It kind of shows nicely how frustrating it can get, especially when you're on your own, right? And it's like, am I doing something? Is this working? Right? Does it have any reason? Why am I here? What is it doing? And this is what you need to fight through. That
is literally the first weapon the spirits always use against you. Nothing is happening. This is boring. This is stupid. Why am I wasting my time? And you start the process of talking yourself out of it.
Yeah.
If you ever meet someone who says, "Oh, I did Abramelin and it was the most profound, moving spiritual experience of my life," that person is lying to you, because it is repetitive, it is mind-numbingly boring, and that's how it works. That's why at the 4-month mark you start going a little stir crazy. Look up and do some studies on sensory deprivation. That's what the oratory is. It's a sense chamber. You are cutting yourself off from all the sensory input you're used to, and your brain starts doing wacky things like seeing angels and spirits.
The fact that he's always like the nastiest piece of work ever. Again, a little bit of goetic flair here. I mean, intended.
I saw a comment that said he didn't see Solomon here as completely evil, but there is no real such thing as evil, and people are complex. Everyone is an onion with many layers. But let's not forget, whether he's got good in him or not, he's charging her $30,000 to be here. He has sexually assaulted her. He is torturing her. He is holding her here using manipulation, so it's quote unquote not against her will, but it's totally against her will. She's expressed a desire to leave several times, and he did physically stop her from grabbing the door once. So I mean, he's holding her here.
Certainly a predator.
He's a predator.
Like he is. The way the movie frames it is that since magic is real, if he lets her out, everybody will die terrible ways. But folks, this is not real magic. This is not it, right? Like,
there's no ritual like that. If you're doing a goetic ritual and you're in a circle, you stay in the circle till you're done with the ritual. But I mean, the whole world doesn't explode just because you step across the line. That's all.
And especially, whatever is happening now, that's quite horrendous. Pretty much.
Yeah, this is.
Well,
but I think if you accept again the conceit of the movie, I mean, I think the idea is that that they really are playing with the lines of good and evil and life and death, and this is where you part of the spiritual athleticism of this is the boundary crossing, and I think that's what they're trying to communicate. And again, they do it in ways that aren't accurate, so to speak, but they do it in ways that are visually
trying to be
storytelling. The storytelling is impactful in that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it is. It's just not Abramelin, and I wish they wouldn't call it that.
Right.
It would be a cute little occult movie, but then again, we probably wouldn't even be here talking about it.
But that's the point, right?
Because it's cute, but it would have come and gone, and
Horus.
I do like the
Orpheus,
closed captioning just said Horus as in Horace, the Roman writer.
Horus. Yeah.
Horus.
I do like that. I love the idea. It's
The
like
name of
Horus
Horus and
Baal
Aristotle and Plato.
Horus, Plato, Socrates.
Yeah, Juvenal. Virgil.
Hey! Those are perfectly legitimate names to put into a conjuration. If you're calling on
that's very
ancestral
true.
spirits and stuff, you can call on Agrippa. You can call on D. You can call them spirits.
Yeah,
I mean, think about it.
I wonder what you would get if you called Horus. He would just come and make fun of you or something.
Yeah, right.
You get a Roman satirist.
Could you imagine, calling Saint Nicholas and just getting some dude who leaps out and beats the crap out of you because you don't believe exactly the right way?
Yeah, hey, God forbid you're an Arian.
Whips you with his cane and then jumps back. Yeah.
I think I don't believe
What is
I don't believe in homoousios.
You accidentally say amen instead of amen, and he just whips. It turns into like a John Wick movie.
Somebody's asking if this is supposed to be a ritual bath. No. Ritual bath.
God, I so want to mention a particular occult leader who actually did this kind of thing. I don't think he actually held anyone down in the bathtub, but he did stuff like this to his people.
Are you joking?
And it's why I want to stress so hard to people that this is not normal. This is not how an adept acts. No one is, and I get, he put her in a near-death experience, but I'm sorry, this is bullshit.
It's very difficult to watch as well. It's quite intense.
And how do you know he could resuscitate her?
Yeah, I think that's the point, right? Is that it's meant to be horrifying and transgressive. I think that again, it's part of what's the driving thinking here is.
It's a horror movie, and I'm horrified.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what's happening here for those of watching the movie? Like, he basically killed her in order to purify her again because she went, off the rails.
She'll be quote unquote reborn when that negates all of her spiritual impurity, which is also, by the way, bullshit. Mm-hmm. That is not how you spiritually purify yourself.
And also, he's drunk.
Yeah,
and he's drunk.
Yeah, he had to get drunk to do this.
And he's a narcissistic predator. And I'm surprised he doesn't feel her up.
Yeah.
Or did he?
No, CPR scene in a movie. Where
God's help us. Yeah, you can imagine how I cringe when I see people. Oh, this was so true. This is exactly what it's like. No.
I think that people. Nothing. I think, Aaron, when people say that, I think that what they're really referencing is probably the last 15 minutes of the movie. I'd be willing to bet
they have to be, but I don't think they are.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, but I can't imagine that it scenes like this or the other scene where he assaults her. That's what they're thinking of. I think that they have to imagine things like the climax scenes.
It's damn dangerous not to make the distinction. Damn dangerous.
I think that's right.
There's, someone in the chat is saying, this is supposed to portray dark magic. Of course, even if we accept this is not the Abramelin, they portray it as a dark magic ritual. Something I would like to say, this stuff isn't real, right? Maybe in the last 20 years or so, you've seen people like, not naming names, going all like left-hand path, the antinomian way. That's not real, guys. You don't have to do these things. It's all crap.
These things.
I would argue that even the term left-hand path, it's
comeuppance.
It's a misnomer. It's
and I will say, I've been talking about sexual assault and stuff, and they're like in Wicca, they have skyclad rituals, and that's different. And you're the air of that, the feeling of that when everybody's dressing down for a skyclad ritual, it's the same air you get in a locker room when people are dressing out. Okay, that's it. If you get a feeling of anything else, like what that guy did to her, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Is he just wants to see you naked. He just wants to get his jollies. And there are
also, I think that
teachers that
with
will
skyclad
do that
rituals, I think that it is implied that you do not have to be naked. It is. I think in most places, what I've heard is that it's clearly stated that you do not have to participate. It is in no way obligatory.
Any good group will not require you. Now, they will do rituals where skyclad is required for the ritual, but you are not required to be there for that ritual if you don't want to do that.
Correct.
And then most of their sabbats or like their esbats and stuff, it's either just you can choose either one, or they actually require clothing for most of their stuff, and they just require.
And also, just from a first aid point of view, if you ever get a piercing wound like that, never remove the object.
Don't pull it out.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Never in any circumstance do that.
But since
given the caveat here, they're not going to leave the house. They consider themselves outside of medical help. But
yeah, I would take my chances with demons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, trust me, folks. If you're locked away doing a ritual, something like this happen, call the ambulance, go to the hospital, because there's no demon's gonna do anything to you, but you're gonna die if you don't do that, right? Maybe don't put yourself into this situation.
Oh, and by the way, the book of Abramelin says any rule that he gives in that book is superseded by medical concerns. Correct. Even magic, you are allowed to perform healing magic while you're doing Abramelin if you have a friend or family member who's sick. So medicine trumps everything. Go to the hospital.
Jewish value. Again, Abramelin's a Jewish ritual. It's called Pekuach Nefesh. That there is no Pekuach Nefesh. There is no commandment that trumps human life.
Yeah,
you can desecrate the
Sabbath.
Sabbath.
We need
and
your input on the Abramelin operation.
It's the law.
A bunch of us goyim out here trying to act like we know what we need your input. We need it.
Well, there are two things that you can't. Pekuach Nefesh does trump. There are certain things you can't. There's certain things that you're not allowed to do. But then in that case, you'll be martyred, but you can never do it on behalf of anyone else.
Wow.
So you can opt to be martyred, but you can never. You must do whatever will preserve life.
Oh, by the way, you are not allowed to come into contact with blood during the Abramelin operation.
Exactly.
So there's another thing in the movie where
but again, this
already over. Starting in next Passover.
But again, just in terms of the Abramelin, it's a Jewish ritual. You're not allowed to come into time about the blood as a Jew at all, ever.
Speaking about blood, maybe this is going to be a little bit into the TMI information, but I used to bite my fingernails very badly at the time. That was very difficult not to do it during the Abramelin operation. Right, it was really hard. So
wow. Oh, and another thing interesting, because I know people are going to ask, what about women in their monthly period? And even though Abraham, not Abramelin, Abraham in his book goes on about never giving this to a woman, he was pretty misogynist. That doesn't appear in what Abramelin supposedly wrote in that book. And what is actually the actual instruction says, you shall lose no blood from your body except that which is naturally expelled. Now, who the hell was he talking about if he wasn't talking about women?
Obviously, yeah, exactly.
So clearly women were from the start allowed to do Abramelin. And yes, having your period is not an issue. I just tell my students, you can't go into the oratory during that period. You don't want any blood anywhere near that area. And but other than that, yes, you're perfectly fine.
And this is where the movie turns up to 11.
Yeah, this is where it starts becoming a good Abramelin movie.
I agree with you. This is
imagine you're coming up in the last phase of your operation. Yeah, it just took an hour. You're coming up in the last phase of your operation, and the spirits really realize now that this is it. This is their last chance to stop you.
Stop you. Yeah.
And
did anything, Aaron? Did anything very physical happen to you? Like you were mentioning, poltergeist operations, or
not in the sense of poltergeist activity. There were things that happened, like really emotional things that came to smack me in the face. But I didn't have. In fact, one of my big issues after the operation did anything even happen? It was so unimpressive, and so even the visions I had on the big day was like, was it real? It wasn't exactly Ezekiel's vision. Nothing came and ripped the roof off of my apartment, and sung songs of creation at me. So I was like, was that even real? And it took me a long time to realize. That's why Shani told me that the Orisha sleeps, the process of those final 7 days, exhausted. Think about it. You've brought this angel down. You and the angel have gone through a birth. You are newborn babies. And the very first thing this newborn baby has to do is get up on its little hobbly legs and defend you while you are calling the biggest, baddest motherfuckers of the infernal realm and establishing yourself, getting oaths from them that now you work for me. You can't control me anymore. And then after that process is over, your angel has nothing left to give and just goes to sleep. And from there, it's a process of reawakening.
Yeah, it took
And
several years for me to feel something stable after that, like several years. I
Oh,
was also
stable, yeah. I say my angel woke up about a month and a half later because I was in a ceremony where they were calling blessings down on us, and that seemed to jog her and wake her up. But you want to talk about stable? Yes,
yeah.
many years, many years.
Somebody's asking, what are the spirits trying to stop you from doing? Literally everything, like going on,
Yeah, I mean,
completing
most human beings,
yeah.
we're just animals, we just live according to our base instincts. We think we have free will, but really most of it's just based on our previous experience and, in what our unconscious selves tell us to do. And that's all what's incorporated by the devil card in the tarot, your lower self, your base self, what you want. I want the little devil on your left shoulder versus the one on your right shoulder telling you what is the right thing to do. And they're in control of you. They're not slaves. They're free. They can do whatever they want and feed off of you and have a good old time until you die. And here is a person standing up and going, no more. You're not going to control me anymore. I'm in control. And I'm going to have this gigantic angel behind me. So you've got until that day to stop me. And they're going to do everything they can. Then they have to serve you. They got to do what you tell them to do. They don't want to do that. It's like breaking a horse, It doesn't. It wants to be free.
I think yeah, it is a similar analogy that Skinner says as well, like the idea of like breaking a horse, right? When you speak with demons.
Yeah, it's like taming wild animals. I never call them evil. They're not evil. They don't want your soul. That's all BS. But
that's typically the way they're depicted in Judaism. That's the way typically Shadim or Shadim, like demons, are typically depicted in Judaism as wild animals.
Absolutely,
they're much more akin to like somewhere between wild animals and human beings.
Exactly, just like the Fae, just like the Jinn. So they're not evil, but they are dangerous. A lion or a tiger is dangerous. It'll eat you. And if you're going to be a lion tamer, you need to know what you're doing and not try to make it up as you go along. You need to understand the lion and yourself before you step into that cage.
And I wonder one wonders how long he's able to limp on here with, clearly he's developing sepsis. You wonder how long.
Big time.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I wonder a couple of weeks maybe.
Yeah,
I think it had to be more than a couple of weeks, maybe a month.
Yeah, good question. I don't know. I don't want to find out.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a doctor in the house, you can put it in the comments.
Yeah, I think sepsis sets in pretty fast.
Sepsis.
Although I wonder if even what about the fact that I'm sorry. I was going to say, what if it pierced his kidney? I mean, they didn't even mention that. Pierced his abdomen. Yeah. I mean, it went all the way through. So I don't think sepsis is even his biggest concern.
He'd be in bad shape for sure. You're going to stitch that up.
I thought that too. It's like, sew up the outside so he can just bleed out inside. That's great. That's great.
And this is where she starts hearing the deceivers.
Yes. And this is what I mean. This is a depiction of what I mean. Your past, your personal demons, that thing that you always avoid thinking about because when you do, it just drags you down and puts you in a depression. Oh, they're going to wallop you over the head with whatever that is.
Did either of you guys experience like oral or visual, alterations of perception? I guess I would say. I don't want to call them hallucinations because I think that's not.
I would call it hallucination. I did experience hallucination. I think looking back at it, those were oral hallucinations. Nothing visual for me, apart from the fireflies. But then again, I don't know if the fireflies were real or not. Maybe they were fake as well, right? But definitely by the end of it. It was, especially, at night, I did hear strange shit, right? It's, but nothing like this, though. Nothing like, It was more like strange sounds. I should have seen, like, I have my diary here. Definitely some strange, like, two tones, like music in the distance. Because, again, I was in the woods, but it was like a little wood inside the town, right? It's, if you look, I can show you where it is in the map. It's near basically Rome as a seaport called Ostia.
Like Ostia?
Ostia, yeah. And this was
Ostia,
on the outskirts of Ostia, pretty much. So
I always tell people that if you can't make it to Pompeii, go to Ostiantica. It's way closer and it's like the cheaper, closer version of Pompeii.
Yeah, pretty much. In a way, yes.
And it's right by the beach.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
As
And
for me,
also,
I
it's the
can't
oldest
recall any
synagogue in Europe.
specific
Is that-
like auditory or visual experiences. In fact, the lack of those was what really upset me at first. But I found they would communicate, and it was actually more my angel was communicating with me by that point through the environment. Songs would come on the radio and stuff like that that said exactly what I needed to hear at that moment. In fact, on the second day, you go in, you dressed in the sackcloth and the veil and the ashes on your head, and you're supposed to lay there, and the angel is supposed to give you instructions, anything that you need in the last minute, to complete the rite. And I laid there, and I swear to God, this is one of the funniest stories, but I laid there in my oratory. Remember the old rapper MC Hammer?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's a Christian. And on one of his old albums from the 80s, it was the album Let's Get It Started, he had a song on there called You've Got to Pray. And as I'm laying there, this song that I had not heard since I was in high school, which I guess at the time wasn't that long ago. But anyway, this song started running through my head on a loop.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And I literally left the oratory that day going, I didn't get anything. This stupid song was in my head. I didn't get anything. And then it hit me. I guess she probably smacked me upside the back of my head and goes, no, that was me. That's the message. And I was being given instructions through an MC Hammer song.
And again, for those of everybody watching this, folks, this is exactly how spirit communication works, right? It comes and goes into weird ways, right? It would be so easy if you just like a little imp would pop up and say, hey, this is what you need to know. But unfortunately, it's so much more. I like it better now, but I agree with you. When I was first starting doing this thing, I was like, hey, so where's the fire and brimstone? Where's all these things, right?
No flash of light, no puff of smoke, no demons. What? Here's what I tell people. It's like these guys, angel or demon, they communicate through what we today would call telepathy. They didn't have that word when the grimoires were written. But Agrippa tries to describe it when he says they communicate immediately from themselves to your brain. And he says it's immediately, meaning not right away, but meaning without passing through a medium. This is the same way that the light from an object is just pressed upon your eye, So he's talking about telepathy. And I tell my students, they cannot say anything to you that you don't already have symbols and concepts in your brain to say it with. They are limited by what's in your brain. Yeah. So it's kind of like, imagine trying to explain quantum physics to a kindergartner. That's what they're dealing with. And so it's hard for them to communicate.
The scene where, she sees the demon for the first time, that's interesting though.
Yeah.
Because I've seen things like this, like, shapes in the dark. Like, especially, this
I have too, just not with Abramelin.
Yeah, and it's goetic work, right? I believe so. But like from time to time,
this house I'm living in is super haunted.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, shadow people.
I think it's also interesting that the demon that she sees there, whatever she sees there, is smoking a cigarette like he does.
Yeah,
like you get a sense that again,
like it's him sitting there,
like it's him. I
was trying to figure out what that cigarette meant because they put a lot of focus on that.
Yeah, I think it's meant to be him at some level. Although it's it's not a rolled cigarette the way he had it, but
and the closed caption just says indistinct murmuring. So I wonder what he's saying there.
Does he die? Did he die already at this point?
No, not yet. No. He's close.
He's close to it.
Spoilers.
Spoilers here, but he dies the next day. He's pretty much unresponsive at this point, even.
And by the way, now that we got to this point, right? This is where the idea that maybe he was the killer of the child and she roped him in comes along, because he says at some point, right? All these things are happening. It's your guardian angel doing them. Right, so possibly is it her guardian angel killing him on her behalf? Right.
Well, look at what he's done to her so far. I would hope her guardian angel is kicking his ass.
He admitted it. When he got the knife went through him, he basically said that it was his comeuppance for having killed her, basically.
Yeah.
But that
or just
karma.
for being the kind of person he is.
Yeah, and who knows what other things? Again, if my theory is right, who knows?
And by
what
the
other
way,
things
for our friend who said that she doesn't have Stockholm syndrome, she's laying in the bed with him. She now sleeps in the same bed with him. So yeah, a little Stockholmy there.
And he's definitely very, very afraid of whatever's happening to him right now. So,
oh hell yeah, he knows he's dying.
Well, that's what he. And again, that's what he said earlier when he commented about the people that killed her child. Like he said they're damned already.
They're damned already. Yeah.
Like he's whatever
Maybe
is happening.
knows.
He is not. He is not convinced that he's going anywhere good.
Here's my question. I mentioned this ages ago. She told him that a bunch of teenagers playing around with the occult murdered her son in a park, I think it was. Picked him up
like that.
Kidnapped him from daycare. They never caught them. How the hell does she know it was a bunch of teenagers playing with the occult then?
I think it was my read is that it's misdirection. That she knows who did it. And that she's misdirecting.
I mean, by your theory, yes. I mean, that totally fits. So, I mean, I can't argue with that. But if your theory happens, if your theory turns out to be wrong, then it makes no sense.
I agree with your theory as well. Like that was always been my reading after watching it more times. The thing is that now, I think that if this is true, if this theory is true, now she realized that she has to finish it without him. And now she's really scared. It was like, well, I didn't expect him to die this fast, right? And
and I think that she was expecting that the end result would be him dying. But now she's now she has to find the ladder.
Why is she continuing it?
It's a movie, Aaron. That's it. That's a reality.
The credits would roll. I know. Now, did he mark out his book, or is this poltergeist activity?
I think
he blacked out every book. That's some obsessive work right there.
It's something that we'll never know. Like we can read it in both ways. That he blacked it out, or that this is poltergeist activity, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll say I love the fact that it's left unknown, because again, it kind of adds to the mystique of it all, right? But she's definitely fucked. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if we want to believe that this is an incredible ritual that you should never stop, or everything will be going wrong to you.
Yeah.
But she's been doing it for months. So in some sense, insofar as the Abramelin is, insofar as, again, it's riffing on the Abramelin, it is a highly repetitive. I mean, I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know, obviously. But it's basically, if she's been doing it for months, she knows what to do.
You should know it by heart. Absolutely.
The only thing they haven't done is the final 7 days. They're not doing the actual ritual.
No. They just show some sort. They show a different kind of ritual. Like it's almost like the preparation going to the various chambers. It's a take on the preparations, right? On the purification.
Well, and another thing I should point out too is this is based on the misconception of Abramelin that it's a 6 or 18-month ritual. When it's really not. It's a 7-day ritual. You just have all those months of ritual preparation beforehand. So she wouldn't have been doing all of those, even if it included circles and triangles and all that stuff. She wouldn't have been doing any of that all this time. That would have come at the end.
Yeah.
And there are no triangles or circles. You just have an oratory and a terrace.
And this is where the movie here goes, of course, completely fantasy. Like she's definitely finally decides to leave,
right?
And she's not able to go anywhere. So
it's like that movie Room 1408. Is that what it was called? Where you could never let you think you had left, but you would just be back in the room again.
I never watched this one. Okay.
That's a great movie. Horror movie, man. Yeah.
I think it's pretty good. Yeah.
Cusack.
But I do like this idea that, I mean, again, I'm I'm happy to always suspend my disbelief, but part of what I like about the film is that up to this point, you really could believe that it was all in her head. Seeing the gold, the flakes, all of that could have really been all of this could have been in her head.
Yeah,
but there's this scene where she clearly is walking in.
But who's to say this wasn't in her head too?
It could be, yeah.
But I think she tries to start the car later and it starts. So this could all just be a hallucination.
It could be, yeah. You're right, Aaron.
Especially since she walks for so long and just ends up back at the house.
I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever been lost in the forest. The trick of if you're in the forest and you need to walk in a straight line, you always look for a landmark and then walk to the landmark. Because if you actually walk, your dominant leg will lead you
Will
in a
lead you in a
circle, and it takes
circle.
about 12 hours to get in a circle. So on a summer day, you'll right as it's right as it's getting dark, you're back
right
within
back where
about
you
a half mile
started.
of where you started.
Yeah.
Wow.
That feeling of walking all day and only to get back where you started, which happened to me when I was a kid, is
Ooh,
very scary.
very
Um,
scary. Yeah.
and that's the experience I think she's having. She just walked all
Yep.
day, and now she's back.
And now
And
she's
like
back.
I think that since this movie was done by Irish people, and it's based in Wales, allegedly, the idea of being Pisky led, right? You go anywhere and then the fairies just like get you back to where you were at the start. They're kind of bringing a lot into it, right?
I think so.
It's a
And
good
plus,
little
allegorically, you can see
horror
this
element.
as, like if this is all taking place just in her head, then this is her final vie to escape, final attempt to walk away. But then her guardian angel is like, no,
No,
this
back
is
it.
where you need to be. This is what you need to you need to finish. He should be guarding her. He should be guiding her through all of this right now.
Which I think,
And-
I think that they show it here, right? The fact that in the end she comes back into the house and say, okay, let's do it, right?
Yeah. Now, based on what you're about to see
certainly
to her, you could go, why would her guardian angel allow all this to happen? But like I said, they don't. They push you into the pitfalls. They want you to be strong and learn how to climb back out.
Yeah. Oh, my life
And
just died here. Okay, interesting.
If the demons cut off one of your fingers and you go to your guardian angel and your guardian angel like, what? You got 9 others. Why are you pissing and moaning to me? Are you dead? Are you breathing? Okay, then get over it.
That's a really weird sequence with the vomit and the picture in the vomit. It's really it seems as if he didn't die. Maybe he had one last gasp, but it is an interesting teasing out what that means exactly.
In the vomit, but yeah, there's got to be a meaning there because he apparently tried to get out.
Yeah, like he seemed like he wasn't totally dead, or that he may have like eaten the picture. I don't know.
Is that what they're trying to get? Because it's bizarre.
Not clear. Again, that's a very biblical idea of, there's all kinds of instances in the Bible where people are told to eat scrolls and stuff like that.
Eat scrolls, which my theory is they were actually talking about mushroom caps. Okay. Sweet in the mouth, but bitter in the stomach. And then the next thing you do was start prophesying and seeing visions. Oh, they were mushroom caps. Amanita muscaria.
Well, they have him now.
This is the final battle. Last-ditch effort on the part of the lower forces to get her from going to that angel. And I'll say, for a movie I hate, her encounter with her angel literally makes me cry almost every time I see this. I mean, oh my God.
It's a good example of where, if you have a budget and it's relatively low budget and you need some CGI, throw it all at one good scene.
Big set piece. Yeah. Hell yeah. And they chose the right one. Minimalist on the demons and all the glory on the angel.
Yeah, and I do like the fact that the demons just are sort of strange looking people. Like they're very they're not like they are all like wet puppets or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll tell you,
remember that her personal demons. It's memories from the past. It's people that she's hurt, people that have hurt her. So yeah, it is people.
I was about to say this is hell actually, hell is other people. This is something that I've seen it. I've seen it like every time I've seen this kind of chthonic entities. They are not monstrous. I mean, at least not to me. They are more like weirded out humans, right? Like with strange features.
It's a baby.
Hello, dog.
This is my Moogly.
Yeah, I mean, I would be in some level. I would be much more scared of humanoid-like monsters than I would be. And again, that's what the word monster means. I mean, that's how Aristotle, when he invented the word monster. The monstroi. Yeah, they're just strange. They're unnatural humans.
Unnatural people. Yeah.
And that's to me, that's what's so frightening about if you guys have ever studied Dybbuk's, the way that you can know that a person's been possessed by a Dybbuk is that the Dybbuk has forgotten how to do human things, but they try to ape being human, and so they do strange things like pick cups up backwards and like try to drink this way, or they like will move things with their
Interesting. I hadn't run into
elbows.
that. Wow.
And so the Debookim are often like, you can tell when a person's possessed by them because they're human, but they're like in the uncanny valley of human, and so they do things that they'll they can hear with their nose and stuff like that. That they're so it's that's always
that makes a
most
lot of
frightening
old Jewish legends make a lot of sense.
Yeah, they're really like frightening in that way because they're people that you love, but they're the Dybbuks controlling them and making them unnatural,
making them do terrible things, like a person when they get drunk.
Yeah.
And what I do like here is that at no point is she ever convinced that this thing is really her son. She knows it's a shade. She knows it's trying to just get her to stop.
Yeah.
Which is again, like if you think about her as kind of a novice, having to hire someone to lead her through this, like of all the things, I have 2 small children, and of all the things that I think would psychologically break me would be something like this, a loss of a child and having the voice of your child manipulating you. I could put up with a lot. And I feel like I've been through a lot of my life. I'm a pretty strong-willed person. But my dad once told me that, and he's a pretty fearless guy. He's like, I never knew fear until I had children. And he's like, and I'm like, oh yeah. And now I know what fear feels like deep fear. It transformed my idea of thinking about Lilith. It made me deeply afraid of Lilith in a way that I'd never been. That mythology inspired in me a kind of horror. But the fact that she's a kind of novice here, and yet she's able to resist what must be the most psychologically torturous kind of thing, shows that at some level, again, that she's not really a novice. Like, I don't know. I don't know if you get the same read.
The movie, right? In the sense,
it could be, yeah. I mean, it would have been interesting had she been tricked early on. Maybe that would have been like, kind of fool me twice. But
if from the perspective of the movie, we can also think that she's been going at this for a year now, because the movie you see like 4 seasons passing, right? You're not a novice anymore after a year of doing
a
magic.
Year of this. Yeah, you're right. And it's interesting that again, it just kind of at some level shows the ineptitude of the demons. Then that of all the things, like they've blown their big trick.
Yep.
If that's the biggest gun you got,
true to life.
You need to go home.
Yep. That's the thing. That's the attitude you got to have. Because like I said, they're going to wallop you with some big stuff, but you got to be able to just say, no, if that's all you got, then I'm just not stopping. I'll see it through to the end. I mean, there are points during the operation, like even the German original says that you can receive signs from God that you need to stop. And I've had that happen to a couple students. I had one student who, try as she might, could not stop losing blood. Like literally was going to the doctor and having blood drawn. And it turned out the vegetarian diet was making her very sick. And so it's like, okay, that's your sign. You need to back off. And she was fine. But I think the warnings come from getting right up to the end like this and going through the hard stuff when it really hits you and giving up then, because you're really putting yourself in a bad position.
I would also like to say here that, the fact that things can get this violent and this physical, it never happened to me. Okay. I'm not going to say.
Oh, yeah. No. This is all Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just a way to viscerally depict what she's going through inside, I say.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
it's a little Hellraiser-ish.
Yeah, and demonic work can put you through the grinder, but it's more like psychological. It's about whatever happens in your head, right in here, right? Depression, something that can happen.
I'm not saying there's zero danger. I mean, I could tell you some stories like I've heard. I didn't know the guy, but I've heard stories of a Golden Dawn member who decided to play with the Grimoires and invoke the gnomes, and like a couple months later, he was mauled to death by a bull, which is the Golden Dawn symbol of the earth element and the gnomes. So I mean, there is that danger, but I mean, you're not going to have a bull maul you to death in your living room when you're doing Abramelin. It's going to be stuff that comes through emotionally, and that stir craziness. I mean, it is meant to get to you. It is meant to. You felt it during the pandemic, so you know how powerful it can be.
And the fact that she loses the finger here, it could be that as she's going through this incredible turmoil inside, maybe she hurts herself. That's something that that
it's kind of weird because at the end when she's driving away, she is missing that finger, so it wasn't all just in her head.
No, exactly right.
She did something to her finger. See, and this is symbolic here. They're trying to drag her down. She wants to go up, reach for the light, and they're saying no. Come back down with us. It's like the people in Socrates' cave. They'll drag you down out of the light.
It's
There's
interesting.
also a great
Like
Freudian read of this as well, right? Like that this is the catharsis, and she's in the id, right? That the basement is the id, and the
She's
ego
got to get up
like
to that super.
so there's also a
super
good Freudian. One could make a Freudian move on this as well.
Absolutely, because that psychology
see
is
the light
part of
coming
this.
in.
It's very important.
It's funny, like the more she says "I'm sorry," the more the light comes, and
Yes,
and the demons disappear,
because
right?
she did say, because remember the demon said to her in her child's voice, "Where were you? You were supposed to come get me at 3:30. Were you with that man?" So all this vengeance she's had for the people who killed her kid, it's her she's been blaming.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the finger. I think that finger, right? She has to pay the price too. That there's at some level there's a penance to be played.
And honestly, this is the part. I mean, this part here, like all this last moment of the movie, this is why I really love this movie, because honestly,
this makes
if
the rest of the movie didn't give such a bad message, this is so beautiful.
Yeah, this part is absolutely beautiful.
She's very Marian looking. The head tilted to the side and the gesture of the hands. It's very Marian.
You're right. Wow. I love that you can't hear what it says.
Yeah. And I love the fact, the way they make the angel speech. It's just like vibration. You don't hear the words. It's something else, right?
You feel
and
them.
Also the depiction of the angels as military. It's a very classic. This is really the image of the sort of Merkava angels that you would imagine. They're soldiers. I mean, we always translate it Lord of Hosts, Adonai Tsevaot, but Tsevaot just means armies. We should just stop translating as hosts. It's from the old Latin, from hostis.
Hostis,
We should just translate it as armies.
Armies. Somebody's saying the angel was massive. Well, that's how it feels.
And even like the organ, it's like very
churchy.
Yeah, very churchy. It's nice.
And I think the message here is fundamental. Like, she asked for the power to forgive, which is the absolute. She let go of everything. Everything she believed she knew, everything she thought she wanted. It's gone now.
And watch his reaction to her request.
Yeah.
Here it is. And he smiles.
It's really well done. Like
also like how the gender of the guardian angel isn't clear. Like that's not they're a very ambiguous entity in that way. But I think the lesson of
the actress was a woman. The actress was a woman.
Okay,
but
who played the guardian angel? Didn't know that.
Yeah. Martina Nuvranova, something like that, and but yeah, I mean, in fact, also the smile on the angel, like, okay, you got it right. Well done.
You asked for the right thing.
Yeah.
It's just it brings to mind King Solomon, who, when he was given that choice, was this one thing you can ask for, and he asked for wisdom because he knew everything else would flow from it, and that's what she needed. But again, Abramelin is to get one thing, but if it all boiled down to one thing, she asked for the right one.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. As the father of 2 small children, I couldn't imagine forgiving. Now, I do like the
By
fact
the
that
way,
the car
I love,
was her sanity check.
yes, I was gonna say, I love the red car going by. This
Yep.
bright color. It's in the sound. They did it almost like a jump scare.
Yeah.
I remember how it felt coming out of Abramelin when you finally
You're
come
right.
back to the real world. It's disorienting and it's even a little frightening. It's
Yeah,
weird.
because you've been away for so long, right? And it's
Yeah. And all of a sudden, all this sound and it. My God, I went to Wendy's to have my first hamburger after I had been veg for so many months. And I remember just sitting there looking at it, and it was hard to make myself take the first bite.
yeah.
All right, Aaron, you did it. You made it through the movie that you hate.
I made it through, and I got to say all my issues and problems with it. I'm gonna close this and never watch that movie again, except for the last bit, because I do love that last bit.
But you know what? For me, that makes the movie, right? It's like, that bit really, whenever people ask me, what was the experience, what you can expect when you see angels, I always say watch that part, right? I agree with you, Aaron. Like, everything that comes before, it's problematic to say
Just don't
the
expect
least.
to have that kind of astounding experience day.
Yeah.
It may be, it's going to be muted. I had some visuals, but it wasn't like hallucinatory. It was just what I thought, just kind of in my mind's eye. And it was years before I figured out how important those visuals had been. At the time, I was like, did I make all that up just because I wanted to see something? Is this even real? And yeah, so don't expect the flash of light, puff of smoke, and all the visuals. But over time, like if just like what Abraham describes in the book, On the Day You Meet Your Angel, he compacts it all into that one moment, that this glory will be in the altar, and you'll in the oratory, and you'll smell this wonderful smell, and your angel will just list everything you've ever done wrong in your life, but then tell you everything you've also done right and how you can fix everything. And that happens, but not on that day. It's not all in that moment. It takes time, weeks, months, and years and decades for it to unfold. So. Yeah.
So Aaron, Marco, I have a question for both of you. Just as we begin to wrap up, because I don't want to keep Marco up all night. We said, like, right, that the movie's is an hour and 40 minutes, and the first hour is where I think both of you guys agree that it's good filmmaking, not great ritual depiction. And I wonder, if you could take a couple of minutes or whatever, 5 minutes or whatever, and think, like, what would you have done? What are some of the things you would have done differently from a filmmaking point of view? And again, I know that you guys are not filmmakers, but but I wonder, if you could maintain the same kind of, that you're making a movie, right? That there's going to be the constraints of making a movie. It has to be visually appealing. But what would you have done? What would you like to have seen that wasn't there? And obviously, the assault scene and all that stuff, that's all, I think we agree that all of that is stuff I think that, when women are just there as objects and things like that's obviously just awful in a movie. But what would you have liked to have seen in that first hour that wasn't there, that would have improved it to some significant degree? And again, not just the film right now.
Personally, I don't know. Maybe I would have just used more source correct references, right? Like, why, it really irks me, right? Seeing all the various the Reiki symbols, or what you were saying as well, Justin, like the Sanskrit upside down, like, maybe being a little bit more correct there, right? And maybe just like not creating a ritual, whatever is this ritual they're doing, like we say this for, like the 5 rooms, etc., like maybe just show I don't know, a goetic evocation. It's still not Abramelin. Or maybe do some exposition where you say, well, we have to really pray, we have to purify ourselves through prayer, we have to go through this, and then because at the end we have to do something. Possibly I would have done that, right? For you, Aaron, what would you have done?
Well, first of all, it goes without saying, I would have nixed the Solomon character. I mean, if even if a character is there, that would not have been. He is just a depiction of everything wrong with somebody claiming to be an occultist, and that just really upsets me, because I don't want to see that normalized. Enough people have been victimized by people just like we saw in this movie.
Yeah.
And like I said, it upsets me to hear people say, oh, this was so accurate. No, for the love of God, it wasn't. But as for the storytelling goes, I think I brought this up before, the movie Hereditary. The worst part of Hereditary was the very end. It's the exact opposite of this. Most of the movie was really good up until the very, very end. And if you've looked, if I'm a movie buff, so I've actually looked up your reviews and analysis and stuff of these movies. And one thing that the critics all agreed on was that through the whole movie, Hereditary, you feel like you're seeing this woman go crazy. You're seeing demons and all sorts of weird stuff happen, and it's great. But you're sure you're seeing that this is all happening in her head. That this is her going crazy after the death of her daughter. And then at the very end, the director goes, yoink, nope, this was all real the whole time. There was a real cult persecuting her. Everything you've been seeing is real. And that let a lot of people down. It's like it took a lot of the drama and meaning out of everything they had just been watching. That, nope, it was just a standard horror movie. Okay, nothing special here.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I wish that both of them had the same problem, but in reverse, where the end of this movie, of A Dark Song, was really good. Very Hollywood, but that wasn't my problem with it. It depicted what you go through inside in a visual way. And if they had just done that through the whole movie, like what Hereditary did through its movie, we could have seen more flashbacks involving her and her son, more odd encounter. Like, remember when she was in the parking lot and there was somebody taking care of their kid on the asphalt, which is a weird place to take if you're changing a diaper or something, but it was odd and uncanny. She could have had tons more of encounters like that.
Yeah, I get it.
And really built the whole thing up as something that this one was going through inside, which they did excellent at the end. Once you knew why she was really doing the ritual, that started to pick up. And everything before that just made me angrier and angrier and angrier. So that's what I would change. I would make the whole movie more of a inner psychological journey for her, which was there, but there was so much toxicity expressed in that first hour that I can't forgive it. You know?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, I share the same thing to Marco's point, and I think to your point too, Aaron, is that for me as a academic, right? What I really like about what I like about a movie, when I think a movie does really well, is when they stick to the constraints of something, and then let the constraints be the mechanism by which the drama emerges. And I think the Abramelin, or even if we were to mix in some goetic magic or whatever, it's often in the constraints of that stuff that you get really interesting storytelling. Because and part of what I would like, part of what I would love to see, and in any kind of occult film or alchemical film or whatever, is taking the logic of these texts and living within that logic and going to the very end and seeing like, oh yeah, this is actually very
yes,
it's very it can be very good storytelling in that way. So for me, I think what ends up happening often in movies about the occult is it's often just sort of occult window dressing. And they really want to tell a story, and then they hang a bunch of occult curtains on it. Where I think that what one could do is really start off with a text, whether it's the Abramelin or a goetic text or the Enochian stuff, and really go to the end with it. And I think that's if they ever make a movie about I don't know who they is, but if someone ever makes a movie about like John Dee and Edward Kelly, that's part of what makes the whole drama with Dee and Kelly so fascinating, is the constraints that they're in.
I agree. That's why I would love to see that story.
I mean, please.
And I think you could really do it well.
Yeah,
somebody should really.
And that's why I said I like the book I had in mind, which I'll probably never write. But I wanted, like I mentioned, like sci-fi historical. Like I wanted it to be, and I'd love to see the movie you're describing be this way, where you just accept that everything in Dee's journals is literally true, like science fiction, literally true. So the angels coming to him and everything in the movie or book would literally be there. You would see them. They would be characters in the story. And then you could just build all this historical stuff that he was involved in, and play out. It would be a hell of an epic tale.
I mean, I'd love to see two scenes, right? One scene where we're seeing it from Kelly's perspective, looking into the stone. And then one scene where we see it from Dee's perspective, where you're in a room and it's just a guy looking into the stone.
There's nothing there. Yeah.
Yeah. And just
you show things flying around and storms and lightning and everything, and then the camera changes and
there's bloody books and all this stuff, and he's like grids moving up and down and left and right, and then you zoom back out and it's just Dee's like feverishly scribbling in a book.
Scribbling
Kelly's just like
scribbling. That is so
yeah, and
spot
like,
on, man. You are seeing it exactly the way it happened, my friend. That is
yeah.
exactly
I think again, I think it's so. But yeah, I feel like the occult is the world of the occult, the world of this kind of stuff is so rife for good storytelling, and some people are doing it really well. I think Robert Eggers is the person who's doing it really well. I mean, The Witch, I think, is the most accurate depiction of what a Puritan fever dream would look like.
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree. I didn't like the movie, but it wasn't anything like the reason I dislike A Dark Song. I just found it kind of boring, but I saw what they were getting at, and yeah, it's a good depiction of these people just going insane over witch hysteria.
Yeah, and I think that's what it would have looked like in that time. I think he did it really well in that way. But yeah, I feel like this is and I think this is a thing that's coming in filmmaking these days, is in the same way that filmmakers are getting really turned on to like extremely historically accurate like clothing, because people on the internet are really picky about that stuff now. I think that people who make movies about the occult should also be getting more picky about getting this stuff historically accurate, which is me just selling myself off as a consultant for film. So hi Hollywood, if you're looking for a consultant to make your John D movie, please email me.
Hey, and give me a call too, because I'm tired of seeing you guys just take English words and spelling them with angelical Enochian characters. Could you actually consult on how to actually write text in angelical, please?
Yeah. and written the wrong way. Yeah,
and written the wrong
although
way.
Then the witch, the witch is at the very end of the witch, and they're floating in the air. They're chanting in Enochian.
Are they
really? Oh, you're right.
Oh yeah,
I'll have to watch that again. They must be doing the Golden Dawn.
They're chanting in Enochian. If you have to listen pretty carefully, but yeah.
I mean, but I think now that you're making me think about it, yeah, you're right, and it's the Golden Dawn, spelling pronunciation of it. So
in the order we call it Golden Dawn liturgical Enochian. We have to pronounce every letter in the word.
Like ecclesiastical Latin and
exactly. Exactly. It's an ecclesiastical Enochian that you only use in Golden Dawn rituals.
Yeah, I love hearing that. I have the record of the Aleister Crowley when he recorded that vinyl.
When he recorded those,
I love listening to those because it is genuinely like spooky sounding, even though if you know Enochian and you actually know the original pronunciation,
especially Crowley raspy, strange voice. It's very.
I was gonna say he was very old when he did those, didn't he? Because it sounds just like this old man chanting into a tin can in some dark room somewhere. It
was in the 40s, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I mean, it's like
he was really
toward the end of his life, and he had a lot of like.
And he's also like vibrating them, right? It's not just him speaking; he's also him vibrating.
He's sort of vibrating, yeah. It's kind of a sing-songish that he does.
That tinniness in his nose is him like doing that with the pronunciation. But
yeah, he goes like
any last thoughts, guys, before we wrap up for the evening?
I mean, I would like to say that.
Aaron, I know you dislike the movie. Do you come away with a different or another appreciation, or dislike it more, or any sort of final thoughts from either of you guys?
I was wondering, I did watch this yesterday before we came here, which I probably shouldn't have done, but I did want to see if I would feel different about it. And not really. It still made me angry for all the same reasons. The least of all, the fact that they call it Abramelin, but that still upsets me. I still think it would have been a better movie if they just removed that. Would have made my work easier. But I mean, for what it is, I mean, it is a technically beautiful movie. I mean, you saw those shots and the use of the music, the use of the sound. Did you notice the weird high-pitched wailing music sound they were using when the angels showed up? I mean, kudos. Kudos to everyone involved in that. So there's nothing technically wrong with that movie. It's gorgeous. And I love everything from when you said this is where it dials up to 11. That is like, I would take that chunk of the movie and show that to my students. That's how well I think that was done. Just everything else. It's mostly the toxicity of the Solomon character and the misrepresentation of what Abramelin actually is and what its purpose is. That's a big thing. Is okay, they had tree branches and circles and triangles and it was all visually good, but I mean, just even why she was there, or this idea that, well, I did it 2 times before, and it's not an evocation ceremony. It's not a one-off ritual. It's that you just repeat because you want something. It's so yeah, that upsets me, but that's all because Abramelin is my tradition, you know. So you know, when I was a kid, my dad hated Iron Eagle. You remember the old movie Iron Eagle from the 80s, where a Air Force officer gets kidnapped in the Middle East, and his kid and his teenage friends infiltrate an Air Force base, steal a bunch of jets, and go get him and bring him home.
What?
And as a kid, I loved that movie. What a great fantasy. My dad, an Air Force officer, hated that movie because he was an Air Force officer. The premise was just so ridiculous he couldn't wrap his mind around it enough to enjoy it. And that's how I'm feeling about this movie. I'm an Abramelin initiate, so every little detail is going to rub me the wrong way about this movie, except for the end, the very, very end. That was beautiful.
Marco?
For me, you know, as you know, I love the movie. I was, you know, watching it with you guys. I definitely agree with Aaron, the fact that, you know, the first part, you know, the toxicity of the character is really hard to stomach. But as I say that, you know, throughout tonight, is like, unfortunately, I met a lot of those people, right, in the occult community. And for me, in many ways, it was good that they put it on camera, because it's almost like, you know, this is the stuff that you might end up finding in this community if you enter this community.
As long as you understand it's a warning.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. Like, I never
an ideal.
I never found anybody that, you know, watch this movie and say, well, this is the idea. This is like, we should be like this Solomon dude because he's the man, right? Absolutely not. But I'm happy that, you know, there is almost like a don't do this, right? You know, like, this is the kind of stuff.
Cautionary tale.
Cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Like, you should avoid this.
Don't end up dead at the foot of some stairs having vomited up some lady's picture.
Exactly.
A picture of some lady's dead kid.
And like Aaron also said, like the end is just perfect for me. All right, you know, like it's very different from what I've seen. But at the same time, it conveys the experience very well. And you know, whenever people ask me what it's like to see spirits, what it's like to see demons, what it's like to see angels, I do suggest them, you know, watch the movie. I do suggest, like, watch that part, because that will give you, if you really need to see something to have, you know, prepare yourself, that this is it. You know, again, like the eye pitch at the end, the fact that the angel speaks but you don't hear, but everything vibrates, almost like, you know, it's just like speaking a language that goes outside space and time. It hits you in different points of your soul, possibly. You know, that's it. Right? And I never seen something else. I never seen another movie that does it as well. I love The Witch. Of course, it's a different kind of thing. I watched Hereditary. I liked it. But I mean, that's a very different experience from Paimon that I met. I mean, the Paimon I know.
Oh yeah, that's not the Paimon I know.
It's a very fun person, right? As opposed to this like monster that wants to kill you and behead you, etc. So, you know, like when it comes to,
but oddly enough, they were more accurate with their information about Paimon. Dark Song was accurate about Abramelin. I mean, at least they read the Goetia before they made the movie.
Yeah, that's true. That's funny.
But yeah, I do agree though. Yeah.
All right.
All right. It was really fun to do this. Thank you,
gentlemen, I really appreciate both of you taking the time to, you know, come hang out and watch a movie with me and share your expert opinion. I mean, again, like, you guys really are, you know, luminaries in the field and experts in this area specifically. So I'm really thankful and really appreciative that you would take the time to share your wit and wisdom with me and everyone else who comes along to watch this. So thank both of you guys.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you for bringing us here and letting us talk over the entire movie.
that was the idea. And some folks are asking in the chat, what's the next movie? I broached the topic with Dr. Angela Puka earlier today, and I think the next movie we might do is she and I might watch The Craft, the great 1997.
Oh, nice.
Which
that's another one I can make complaints about, but I kind of like some parts of.
Oh, I love that movie. I love The Craft. It's just a fantastic movie. It has a fantastic soundtrack.
You mean the original one, right? Not the original one, crappy remake. Okay,
the original one, the one from '97.
Feruza Balk.
So I think that she and I, you know, she's an expert on witchcraft and shamanism and those kinds of things. So I think she'd be great. What I would love to do is get Angela, myself, and an older and a younger practitioner of witchcraft, someone from the generation where the craft came out, and then someone, a younger person, sort of a zennial,
my
practice witchcraft
God.
now, and it really have like a conversation and about sort of how witchcraft looked in the late 90s.
That's awesome.
When it was really kind of breaking into the mainstream in certain kinds of ways, and now it's very much in the mainstream. So yeah, I'm gonna try to think about how to put that together. But yeah, I think the craft might be next.
Listen,
like
I'm there to
plan.
watch any of that, but anytime you want to invite me back to join the watch party, you let me know, and I'm there because this was a blast.
Absolutely.
I'm glad. Awesome, guys. All right. Well, everybody, we're gonna say goodnight and let Marco get to sleep. He's up a lot later than the rest of us, and I'm gonna go hang out with my kids and eat some dinner. But thanks for everyone who hung out with us to watch the movie, and again, thank you to Marco and Aaron for again your wit and wisdom. I appreciate it.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Blessed be,
Good night.
guys.